All right, no surprise that Chris Sale was fired up and had a good game against his former team, but maybe a little surprised that he was that good. His first double-digit strikeout game as a member of the Braves. The slider was phenomenal. First 9 strikeouts came on the slider. Last one was on changeup, but he was really good. I said in the pregame show, and I'm sticking with it because I said in the pregame show that no matter what happened, even if he threw a no-hitter, I don't want to hear it was a horrible trade. I don't want to hear revisionist history from everybody who said it was a great move to get a young second baseman who's going to be part of this hopefully for a long time to come. And so I'll stand by that, even though he was really good. But we know, right, when healthy, Chris Sale is a good pitcher. You just don't know when he's healthy. And the Red Sox got somebody who we haven't seen much because he's been the injured guy in this equation, which you didn't expect in that trade. But let's talk about Chris Sale and Vaughn Grissom and how that all came to loggerheads last night.
Yeah, well, I think on the Sale front, you're absolutely right. Like, he looks spectacular. He's going to look spectacular. And the Braves care about what he's going to look like at very specific times, right? Like, they care about what he's going to look like as a member of their rotation in October. And so we still have the great unknown about whether or not he is going to. It's really good to see healthy Chris Sale, right? Like, it's a fun look. He's a special talent. The way that his body moves on the mound is unlike just about anyone you've ever seen, and it's kind of fun seeing him wearing number 51 in homage to Randy Johnson. Now, you do wait to see, since he was throwing so well yesterday. Okay, how's his body going to respond to an outing of higher adrenaline, and how many starts is he going to make over the course of this season? The fact that there is that uncertainty tells you a lot about why the Red Sox were okay making a trade that was geared more towards the longer term, and one whose results are going to be measured in part based on how the Red Sox pitching staff performs in 2024 without Chris Sale. So far, the answer has been surprisingly well, actually extraordinarily well under the circumstances. But then the other part is, what's Vaughn Grissom going to look like, not just as he makes this transition? And again, this is a hard thing for Vaughn Grissom to have jumped onto the treadmill at full speed, coming off of an injury and coming off of very few at-bats over the course of his build-up for the season. So what's he going to look like as 2024 progresses and then well beyond? I think you're right. The logic of the trade is pretty sound. I think regardless of how Chris Sale ends up performing over the course of this year.
I'm very early, but noteworthy that I think Grissom has looked pretty good defensively at second base, right? And that's an important part of this whole equation. We believe the bat will play. Everyone thought that. If he can be adequate or a little better at second base, he can be a really good player for this team.
Yeah, and it can stabilize the Red Sox middle infield. Again, you're kind of looking onto a time horizon that extends beyond the 2024 season. But think about the options that opens up if you have Trevor Story. If Trevor Story can get healthy for 2025, and then you have Vaughn Grissom on the opposite side, instead of constantly having a revolving door at those positions and kind of scrambling. And of course, you also have Marcelo Meyer on the horizon as a guy who is very important in the Red Sox long-term planning. But I agree with you. I think that Grissom has been solid at second base, which is for the Red Sox. That represents a win, because there have been significant defensive questions that accompanied his arrival in Boston.
Nick Pivetta returns. A strange turn of events in that first inning. Thought he was out of it with the double play. About 3.5 minutes later, it's overturned. You got to get back out there before you can catch your breath. Ozuna does what he does, 3-run home run, and the horse is out of the barn. What did you make of Pivetta's return? Wouldn't use that as an excuse, to his credit. Said he didn't like the feel of his sweeper or his four-seamer last night. But again, first time back, just his third start of the year. What'd you make of Pivetta?
Yeah, first of all, I think that it's interesting you went horse out of the barn instead of train out of the station. I thought that we were going with a very, with a very locomotive theme in the course of our celebration of 310, but whatever. However, I thought that the thing that was encouraging about Pivetta with the fastball was that it showed good velocity, right? It was better than it was in some of these starts in early April. So you want to see Nick Pivetta throwing pretty hard. His fastball, his four-seam fastball, it benefits a lot from the carry and from the shape on it, the way that it has that special ride, but it needs velocity. It needs that mid to up. It needs that 95 to 97 rather than kind of sitting in the 92 to 93 range. And he was sitting at 95, so that's good. That means there's arm strength. The command was off, which is oftentimes a product of rust. As you said, there were no excuses that he made for it, but you would expect to see some of those fastballs that were kind of going into the middle third of the zone, which is not a good place to be pitching against the Atlanta lineup. You would like to see those kind of getting into the upper third of the zone and then just above it. And so I think that what you're looking for now is, does the command get progressively better as Nick Pivetta makes his next start? If so, then you're in a good spot. If it takes a little while for the command to come back, then that's not as great. But the arm strength was probably the most important indicator for his health thus far.